what we sort of have lost out because of the physical infrastructure, making it up on the digital infrastructure and the pace at which things are happening around us and the things you have an opportunity to play a role in the transformation. So if you just pick one policy of what the government did, right, a few years ago, they spoke about direct benefit transfer. And if you just take that one thing and the trickle effect it has had and the impact it has had on various industries. So direct benefit transfer said that, look, I'm going to transfer money directly to the citizen. So which meant that first thing was every citizen had to have a bank account. So when you look at many of the larger developed countries, right, the biggest challenge is the tech debt that they've got. Whereas here, the world that we live in, we are so blessed and the CIOs are so blessed because they do not have a tech debt to retire, and hence their decisions are not based on what am I trying to break versus what can I do, because we did not have the legacy of technically we're only a 3-year-old firm. We don't
the
have
startup.
much, in a way, a startup.
Hello and welcome to View from the Top. This episode we have with us at the studios Lingraju Sawkar, popularly known as Lingu. He is the president for Kyndryl India. Lingu joins us in the studios to have a discussion around FOMO, leadership, tech trends and the future ahead for Kyndryl India. Hello and welcome, Lingu. Thank you so much for joining us at the studios today. Thank you so much for making time.
Shantari, thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure to be here with you in this conversation.
Likewise, absolutely. And I trust this conversation will really bring out some great insights. So, Lingu, I'd like to start off with this. Kyndryl has a very interesting India growth story. So, what typically for you as a leader is really exciting at this point of time as far as India is concerned? And given the fact that last year global leadership also came in here and a lot of things were discussed. So, what's your take on this?
I think for me, I would say the question of timing, right? This is the right time to be in India, the right place to be. And more importantly, there's so much happening around here that you can actually add and get a multiplier effect for the business and for the world around you. And I would look at this in a frame of, let's start with the government itself, right? I think the government and the government policies, the people behind the policies and the way they've set the frameworks across. If you pick any specific industry as such and you keep that at the center and then see how the economy has triggered, how the business interests have triggered, there's a lot happening in that world. And I think that's the most exciting part. Second is, of course, the people. I think we are blessed to be not only at this time here, but also the demographic dividend that we enjoy, especially for our industry, best thing that will happen. And more importantly, I think I would probably look at it this way, that what we sort of have lost out because of the physical infrastructure, making it up on the digital infrastructure and the pace at which things are happening around us and the things you have an opportunity to play a role in the transformation is to me the most exciting time. And the fact that you can play a role and learn a lot during this process is what's exciting me a lot, Shantari.
Great. Transformation, I think, is the key word I'll pick on here. Yeah. So what are some of the interesting customer conversations that you're hearing right now? You know, there's just so much happening, so many tech trends. So A, the trends which define what customers want to do next. B is the fact that you are also helping out customers by understanding their problem statements. It works both ways, right? Okay. So what are the things you're hearing and what are the things you're trying to help solve at this point?
I think, Shantari, if you pick any industry, so let me pick the banking industry as such. And I'll always start from what's the external environment and what's the policy at that level. So if you just pick one policy of what the government did, right, a few years ago, they spoke about direct benefit transfer. And if you just take that one thing and the trickle effect it has had and the impact it has had on various industries. So direct benefit transfer said that, look, I'm going to transfer money directly to the citizen. So which meant that first thing was every citizen had to have a bank account. So that drove a whole lot of banking environment to go and open up accounts and ensure things. So 800, 900 million accounts. Now, a scale of that form can happen only through technology. So technology got itself inside. But at the same time, there were a lot of enablers. So you had the whole Aadhaar and the whole platform, which became an enabler for KYC. So then KYC systems started getting integrated.
Correct.
That's at the banking stage. Now that you've got banking in there, add that to another external environment that happened. COVID came in. As COVID came in, banks were previously designed for retail banking. That is, customers came to the bank and you transacted, and hence your systems were built, your core banking systems were built for transacting at the branch. Now, with remote and online, systems had to get migrated, transformed to mobile banking and online banking. So again, another wave of transformation and technology happened, and that's how the industry started playing. Now, as you go down to the bottom of the pyramid, where the trickle down of impact happens when you put a dollar in front, a rupee in front, how does it land back? As it spread to the bottom of the pyramid, which meant that, look, the only way to get to access across there was through mobile. And so, along with the transformation of banking, the telecom industry played a significant catalyst into that whole process of banking and enabled the access of mobile banking at the last end. Now, as good things happen, bad things also happen. As you got to mobile banking towards the end and bottom of the pyramid, cybercrime also went up. So then you had to deal with a whole lot of security and impact that came along with security. So how do you protect cybercrime, cyber protection, and taking that entire chain? So everything that you pick across from a policy perspective, banking industry, telecom industry, and along with that, the surrounding equations by the startups and everybody else makes the business really very impactful. And that is true for almost any industry that you pick in. So the conversations in banking, if I were to pick across, if you take this entire chain, the conversation starts off also with, how do I make the life of a customer easier and simpler? And that sort of applies to almost every industry, which is basically, how do I retain customers? How do I attract new customers? And how do I grow my customers? If you take that one theme, it's true in every place, whether it's banking, what do I do with the customer? How much do I know the customer? How do I make myself relevant to the customer? So data management and everything else builds around that. Similarly, when you look at an automotive customer, if you take the same simple theme of saying that, do I know my customer well? How can I serve him better? And how can I get more value to him so that he stays with me for a longer period of time? All the programs go around it, and hence technology plays a significant role. And I would say that, look, as I spoke initially, Shantari, the time which we are in is one of the most apt times for us. We are at a confluence of policies which are very supportive for the business. We are at the confluence of an external environment that also in a way aids what we have to do. We have a demographic profile that supports us. And more importantly, I think by nature, by the complexity of the world that we stay in India, because it offers scale, complexity, and demands a degree of frugalness, that breeds innovation as well. So I think it's got a combination of multiple things that sort of make things happen out here in a much more impactful manner.
So, Lingu, which brings me to the next question. So, where exactly are customers investing at this point of time? And how do you really see, primarily you're talking to all the digital decision makers, some business leaders as well. So, where exactly are they investing? And what interesting dimensions have their roles also undergone over the years? Because we see right now, there is a lot of talk of the CIO not remaining merely the IT guy anymore. So he's an integral part of digital decision making as well. So what are some of these interesting shifts you've been seeing in their investments as well as in their roles?
I think let me first take the second question, which is about the role of how CIO's roles have evolved. I think across the board, I've seen that the reporting structure of the CIO has changed. Previously, it used to be under a CFO organization, or it used to be under another place, but right now it's directly to the CEO. That's not just a reflection of the capability, but it's also a reflection of the importance and the strategic value that the organization puts onto that. So which means that is there. Second thing is, another fundamental change that I see sort of happening across is the IT function was sort of a cost element in the P&L. You had an IT budget, you had some things to deliver, you had to keep the lights on, deliver to the business and make things work. So that was on the cost side. I've seen the shift now to the revenue side. Today I have conversations with CIOs who are not talking about business, they're talking about how do I grow this initiative? How do I grow my digital customer footprint? How do I increase the cross-selling to my existing customers? So that is a shift again from being on the cost side to the revenue side. So the conversations with customers primarily are, with CIOs are around three or few areas. First and foremost is customer. Who's the customer? Is it an internal employee? Yes. Customer's customer? Yes. So a lot of focus on the experience of what their end customer goes through, whether it is in banks, whether it is in automotive, whether it is in retail, about that. The second part of it is the systems of record and systems of transaction. I think over a period of time, there's enough amount of data that's got built in. How do I harness and harvest the data for a meaningful outcome? So a lot of conversations around data management, a lot of conversations around insight, a lot of conversations around how do I leverage AI for extraction of value, and how do I make this this information and everything that I get across to my client-facing organization or the customer-facing organization more relevant. So a lot of thing on data, customer retention. While this is going around, the looming thing on cyber becomes very, very critical. I think the conversations around cyber are very clearly, it's about, hey, how do I prevent, how do I detect early? But now the conversation is also that not only just prevent and detect, how do I recover, right? Because inevitably, the bad actors will always be one step ahead of it, and the good actors will try to prevent them, but there's always going to be a sneak in that's going to happen, and when that sneak in happens, how do I recover? So a lot of time and effort is being spent on recovery as a second area. Now, in the whole equation across between customer and protection of environment across, I see a lot of conversations also with customers around organizational strategy, right? So they don't just restrict themselves to the art of possible on the business side, but there's conversations between CIO and CHRO on employee experience and what can we do. There's conversations between CIO and the procurement or the supply chain organization on how do I work with internal partnerships to make that work. Well, all of this is there in one stage. Now turn to the innovation side. Now, the good part of where we are in India is about tech and tech innovation. So the CIO becomes a focal of innovation in the organization, and hence he's constantly looking out to look at what partnerships can I bring in which will help my organization to do that. And that's where the world of startups, world of fintechs, world of working with academic institutions, looking at innovation. So innovation, data, AI, customer, retention, acquisition, security. I think these are all sort of words that get mixed around but form a sense that comes across in the whole story.
So Lingu, we see a lot of talk around, like while you spoke about what's really happening in the technology space, we also see two things. One is the tech trends that have like kind of really taken the larger part of the CIO discourse. The other part is where exactly are the CIOs investing? Secondly, what's the ensuing change in their roles that have happened over the years? How has their role evolved? I think both these are interlinked in some ways, right? One influences the other and vice versa. So what are the things you're seeing really?
I think, Shantari, to look at this question, right, we've got to take a sort of a couple of steps back. How did India evolve into this world of tech? I think if you look at it from at this vantage point, well, in the past it would have not been that great a positive story, but now I think India benefited from having had the opportunity to leapfrog. For example, we never had mainframes in the country, so you leapfrog straight from mainframes to client server. You never had written applications or custom applications. You went straight to packaged applications. And then you did not have to go worry about wired internet. It was all wireless and mobile internet. And then came cloud, right? You leapfrogged. Because of this advantage of leapfrogging, you did not have tech debt to retire. So when you look at many of the larger developed countries, right, the biggest challenge is the tech debt that they've got. Whereas here, the world that we live in, we are so blessed, and the CIOs are so blessed because they do not have a tech debt to retire, and hence their decisions are not based on what am I trying to break versus what can I do. So we keep that frame in mind.
Can I interrupt you here?
Please.
So you said they do not have much of a tech debt to break. But what about the old legacy companies? They would have some bit of this challenge to grapple with.
I think if you look at even legacy companies, I would look more of that from the IT services company side, who've sort of built the businesses around these managing legacy, right? Maybe managing those Y2K at that time, you built a business around it, you built a business around application writing, application coding, and application services. I think those companies would have a challenging time in the world ahead. But having said that, I think we are in a lucky sweet spot, I would say, because we did not have the legacy of, technically we are only a 3-year-old firm. We don't
the
have
startup.
Much, in a way a startup, and we'd like to think, believe and work like that. And because of that nature of how we work, with the absence of legacy, we're able to look at things in a manner that is probably, in a way, resonates with where the customers want to look at, to go ahead without looking at stuff at the back. And for example, our own internal environments themselves, right? From few 1,800, 1,500 applications, when we had to migrate and move out into a new firm that we built ourselves for, we moved it down to a few hundred applications. We moved from a world of almost about 45 to 50 data centers to a 0 data center footprint. We moved from our HR applications, which were almost multiple applications for different purposes. Now we're down to one single platform. So we could take advantage of the technology, and hence what we learned becomes, we call ourselves customer zero. We eat our own food, we cook our own food, and then we serve it. So it's a proof of what we do. So I think customers do look for proof points of where these things have worked and how it works. And I think customers are willing to experiment. They're willing to be open-minded. They're willing to be willing to look at saying, I'm willing to fail. I'm okay to fail soon, and I'm not too worried about the investment that goes down. But I think if I take 5 bets, the 2 that will come out very well is where will make a big impact. So I see a lot of experimentation. I see a lot of boldness. I see a lot of being open to new things, not worried about tech debt, but willing to find a way to bridge that as a team in most conversations with customers.
Excellently put. I've had a similar perception or experience during my conversations with most of these people, most CIOs or CISOs that we interact with. I mean, an emerging set of CISOs as well. They are looking for partnerships. They are looking for people who can move the curve for them, the tech curve for them. They're actually in conversations with people who can actually answer the questions. Like they say, I'm ready to be vulnerable about my problem statements as long as I get the right answers for it. I'm not afraid to ask questions, but give me the answers. And then I'll choose from the options that I have. So these are things that, even we,
Absolutely.
Kind of come across when we talk to our digital decision makers at this stage.
Actually, you're so right, Shantari. Recently, I was with the CIO of a large insurance firm. And I was asking her, how are things going with Kyndryl and you? And we've been having this conversation for a while. What do you see? She said something that was sort of very reflective in a way that it spoke a lot, but also sort of gave a very sharp focal. She said, look, as leaders of organizations, we all have problems. And when we have these problems, we talk to partners to solve the problems, because that's when you find what's going on. And the interesting that I find is that when I'm talking to a few technology firms across, I immediately see that the person on the other side has actually got a solution. He's trying to figure out what product to sell and which thing to put across. But when I talk to Kyndryl, I find that I'm in a psychologically safe place, because A, you don't come with a technology that you want to sell, and you come in as a technology independent service provider. So as I have this conversation with you all, I find myself in a psychologically safe place. You all come with different options and different solutions, and together you're also equally vulnerable to tell me what you all don't know, and hence bring the expertise to integrate, and I find that a better place. And I think most customers are now very clear about seeing what problems they have, calling out those problems, and seeking solutions from outside. The other element also is a business is a continuing and a growing concern, in that tech would get built over a period of time. So the way you look at this is that from where we came in from being a tech operator, a trusted tech operator with decades, moving into a trusted advisor. How do you leverage the experience of what you've done? How do you leverage the experience of the customer's environment, which you manage over a period of time, apply technology and actionable insights, and then graduate to being a trusted advisor? So you not only run the environment, but you apply technology, apply the right skills and the people and the experience to transform the environment and run. So it's like, I call this as a run, transform, run, and it's a continuing cycle, because you're constantly moving and making changes as you move along. So that's the theme which I find resonating with clients who have issues, and even those who don't are willing to even engage and listen and talk.
Absolutely. As long as you're not going in with the caveat emptor,
Absolutely.
let the buyer beware. You're actually going with this thing that I want to help the buyer.
Absolutely.
He need not beware of anything. I'm going to actually be there for him. The psychological safe space that you spoke about, I think it's very critical, right? It's super critical, which brings me to the next point. So it's typically the AI world now. And we've had this conversation offline as well. And it's also the world where everybody is looking at the GCC right now, the rising importance of the GCC. Kyndryl seems to have a story in both these spaces. You had made announcements around your GSOC, and you have an AI-centric platform. So what are these stories, and how are they really integrating into the larger story, if I may have your take?
Yeah, sure, Shantri. I think technically, if you look at Kyndryl in India, is, we are in one part of our business is the GCC itself, right? Because we serve our enterprise on certain enterprise functions. We also support our global customers from here. So that's the second part of it. And at the same time, the way I look at this is that this is the largest talent base for Kyndryl across. So because of that, we are able to do 2 parts of it. One is what I call as a Kyndryl for India, where we serve with pride, privilege, and a lot of humility some of the largest corporations in India, which make a big impact on the economy, whether it's banks, telecom, retail, manufacturing, and government. So we do that part. Along with that, because of the talent base in here, we are able to serve our global customers. But along with that, we also look at this as like an R&D center. As I said, India offers scale, complexity, and demands a degree of engineering frugalness. So what you develop and design for India becomes a operating model, a capability, or a skill or an asset that can go to the rest of the world seamlessly. And we're seeing a lot of that. And a way to draw that back to a GCC as such, it's very similar to that. I think the whole drive of organizations is that, look, at one point in time, there was strategy and there was execution, and more than anything else, the IT part of it was sort of passed down the chain into various elements. Now, customers are looking at it slightly differently. They're saying that, hey, look, IT is so integral part of my strategy. The execution of that strategy also has to be integrated to me. But having said that, how am I solving for digital? And because of that, they said, look, I need to keep the strategy part of it in-house. I need to partner for where I can, and I'll go to where talent is available to solve it. And that's how the whole GCC story. I think India is at a very fantastically sweet spot, a combination of multiple things. It's got starting with the government. I give a lot of credit to the government and its policies, the talent, and more importantly, I think the legacy of the education, the schooling system that all brings the talent together. Having said that, I'll give you one simple example of the AI conversation that came across, which I sort of go back to my previous question that you had about customers are open to looking at partnerships and customers have problems to solve. We're working with one of the regulators in the country, and the conversation was around loan systems, lending systems. And the question that came across was, how do I accelerate the farm lending priority more? Again, a government initiative. I need to, because India is largely an agrarian society, so how do I facilitate more for the agrarian society to grow up? And the starting point was credit, right? Credit and credit is a great economic stimulator to lift the thing up. So the government mandated that obviously the farm sector is a priority sector, you've got to lend more. So every banking institution, every institution has a mandate to do that. But the cycle time to actually turn around a loan was taking a long time. If you or me went to the bank and said, here's my farm document and I want a loan, from the time to figure out the ownership in one system, the soil metrology in another system, the weather report from a third system, and your loan credit history from the cooperative bank, it used to take almost 10 to 11 weeks. And despite the system would slow down, right? So the question was, can you help solve this? So what we did is we sat with the institution. We said, look, we come with a set of things that we know. We don't know the banking system as much as you do. So please bring in some of your people who are experts in the banking system and the loans. We brought in a bunch of technologists and data scientists and capabilities. We put them together for about 3-4 months, and together we developed a platform. And that platform is now running in many banks as a pilot. About 8,000 crores has got dispersed. But the beauty of all of it was, it now turns it around in 11 minutes. From a period of 10 weeks to 11 minutes is a great progress. And more than anything else, I think it enabled us and the customer to really look at a problem with a fresh pair of eyes, not looking at how would I solve it elsewhere. And that's an innovation platform which uses AI and everything else. There are millions of such examples happening in GCCs for their businesses. I know of many automotive companies who are developing the entire customer experience, playing crash testing for their cars, that the whole manufacturing process is being run from here. I think India is at a confluence of multiple things that's worked really well, and I keep going back saying the right time and the right place, and hence the world of tech has really leapfrogged to leverage these things that comes across to that.
Absolutely, very rightly said. India is absolutely at the hotspot of innovation, and our demographic profile is also such, right?
Absolutely.
It just gives so much of, it's a rich playing field for everyone, for all the stakeholders.
Absolutely.
I think it's a great time actually. Which also brings to mind, this interesting thing you said, the lead turnaround time from 10 weeks to 11 minutes. And that's phenomenal. I mean, even in terms of the way we can visualize it, but it's actually happening somewhere, right?
True.
Brilliant example, Lingo, which takes me to a more leadership question. So with so much of, dynamic shifting of, tech trends, the landscape, so much happening everywhere, as a leader, do you go through FOMO, A? And B, if you do, how do you navigate it?
I think, this is something which is always on my mind. The first thing is about talent at the core of it. Do I have the right talent at the right place, right? and solving the right problem. That's the core of it, of everything that we put together. And the second thing is that look, what's the next disruption that's going to come, right? And this specific disruption on AI and conversational AI and Gen AI, I think it's very, very significantly a disruptive force. And when you look at it from that perspective, it's one way to look at what's it going to disrupt, or the other way it's going to look at saying that what is it going to enable to the next level. And getting the conversation around that, getting the organization to think about it, getting the ecosystem to build capabilities around it, and also looking at putting all of this together and really making it work for the citizen, for the end customer, for the end student, and even more importantly, I think the impact that it can do is where you constantly keep thinking about it. One example which I'd like to quote is we're working with a large university. We're building a Gen AI platform for them. Just to give you an example of the complexity and how you can solve things. Online course, 10,000 students register. Each of the 10,000 students have to take 5 elective subjects. Each of those 5 elective subjects in the final exam have 5 questions, which are essay type questions. So every student has a descriptive answer to each of those. So when you multiply the math, we're talking of almost 200,000 questions to be evaluated in a span of time, and make sure that everybody is graded the right way. So the one solution is, hey, you bring in a battery of professors and teachers to evaluate. So we looked at that problem and said, look, there must be a technology way to solve this. So we built a technology platform using data, AI, and a lot more cloud work around it. And today, the technology as being put to use, you could write an answer in a certain manner. I could write an answer. Somebody else could write an answer. The system would evaluate it and give the same grading. So when the professors looked at it and they said, okay, this answer I would grade this mark, and exactly that's what the technology said. And this answer I would grade it this way. So now they're able to process these 200,000 questions in a much faster time. So technology that has become what we used to call as a great decimator has brought a dimension of speed, velocity, but more importantly, a fairly good degree of accuracy. And that's the big game changer.
So would you say that it is eliminating subjectivity and bringing more objectivity, or is it bringing subjectivity with a degree of objectivity?
In an essay type answer, it's always subjectivity and objectivity together. The multiple choice questions were black and white, but here there's a degree of subjectivity and objectivity. Now, underlying that, how do you eliminate biases? That's the biggest thing as well.
Ultimately.
Right? And I think in technology, if it's worked upon well, it's built the right way, you can take it out, and as long as you take the biases away and build the frame across, I think it can do a lot of these things that you pointed out very accurately.
Wonderful. So what's next for the India story? What's really, really keeping you excitedly, alive, day and night?
I think the India story is on 2-3 dimensions, right? And again, I start from the place we are in and the economy, right? Talking of the 3.5 to the 8 trillion to the 20 trillion, that is a journey that will throw up a lot more opportunities, but a lot more interesting challenges to solve. And I see that technology can really play a significant role to solve, whether it is in the case of healthcare. How do you look at healthcare at the last point of the chain? How do you ensure that healthcare records are easily accessible and not thing across? So when you take that as a chain, then how technology can solve that. Education, right? As we were talking outside, the whole concept of the teacher, student, and the learning experience itself has changed. The teacher grapples with so much of distraction. Is actually not competing with anything else. The teacher is actually competing with, how do I keep the student attentive for that 30 minutes in that classroom to what I have to say? And how do I make myself relevant to what the student? So that's going to go through a significant change. Banking systems and foundational systems will always continue to change. Take a look at our airports itself, right? Many years ago in Bangalore, we had one airport on one side of the town and the experience there, and another airport, a new airport, Bangalore airport, fully digital, technologically built in, but applying digital to not take away the customer experience, because end of the day, customer experience is about what people see, feel, touch, right, and experience. So all of those are, I think, a great opportunity for India, for all of us in India, for the generations to come by. I think we've got it going very well for us as we look ahead in the times to come.
Absolutely. And the other refreshing thing I'm seeing in leaders now, such as you, is the fact that even your FOMOs are very evolved and your way of navigating those FOMOs are very evolved. I think earlier the conversation used to be, we used to have very outdated questions saying, do you fear competition and so on. But I think we've moved way beyond that. And even the way you're looking at problems before you are so refreshingly different, I think that makes for great conversation, really.
I think, so again, because we are all in the tech world, right? There's so much that tech can solve, right? I'll give an example of Kyndryl Bridge. Kyndryl Bridge is our platform that we developed largely in India, which is to basically manage complex environments. So effectively, it's an AI-based technology platform that feeds off the data and insight of millions of customers built over daily things, captures all the information, then uses AI to make actionable decisions. Now, with that one simple module of what we've deployed across, our engineers today are able to spend the time more meaningfully, not spending time on troubleshooting, but on ensuring that they prevent the trouble happening. So how do you move the world from what I call as a reactive mode to solve to preventive, productive, and proactive mode of preventing something from happening? And if I take that to any industry, it's all about preventive, proactive, and predictive way of operations, which technology can do. I think the opportunity lies for us is how well, how soon, how fast can we scale up our skills, can we scale up our education system, and more than anything else, retain that hunger of not becoming complacent, retain the hunger of I don't know, so I'm willing to seek. Keep that vulnerability quotient, saying that, look, there's always somebody who's better than me, so I would like to reach out and get that. I think those are things that will continue to be our core values as we have to take it on.
Absolutely. I'll close with one last question.
Sure.
So what's that one sleeper disruption you think the world should watch out for?
I don't know. I mean, till recently, we thought we were all set, and then AI came in. It sort of disrupted, and it will disrupt.
AI was there, but then generative AI changed the discourse.
And
so what next?
I think the next thing would be in the area of I would say tensile robots, and more importantly, how does it actually land into the manufacturing systems, right? So in my view, I think manufacturing systems have sort of had a phase lag to technology IT systems. There's always been classic IT and business IT. I think the progress that's going to happen there with what technology will interface into the production, manufacturing systems, decision-making systems, I think that's going to be a big disruption that's going to happen out there. And another disruption which I potentially see coming across is we are actually all, in a few years from now, we're going to be dealing with a very different profile of customers, right? The customers who are now probably in their early teens, when they become customers, we actually don't know much about how they think, process, work, and act, right? That's going to be, and a lot of our systems we have built right now are for current generations, right? So getting them early to figure out what they look, what they do, what they feel, what they want, and making them part of the development of systems for the future is where I see an opportunity, but also it's constantly going to keep you awake because your consumer profile is going to change. Every industry is going to have a different profile of consumers and customers. So how are you going to change your organization to serve them better is at a pivotal point is what I would say.
Absolutely. And truth be told, they are already proxy customers, today's teenagers.
Absolutely.
But then they'll become the real paying customers. And it's so important to know what they're thinking.
Yeah.
Right?
Today, the way the generation is used to consuming, right? Whether it's all by the swipe, right? You order food through a swipe, you can order right through a swipe, you can order through that. How do you keep when that generation comes into the workforce, how do you ensure that your systems, your office systems, your technology systems are serving them? Is a problem and an example to deal with, right? Similarly, as things go across, I think a lot to learn from that generation, and solving for them will get us to a very different level.
Absolutely, well stated. So thank you so much, Lingu. This was a great conversation, very free-flowing. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and joining us today.
Thank you, Shantari. I mean, it was a pleasure being here. I think I enjoyed this discussion, and it provoked a lot of very interesting threads, which sort of somewhere is there at the bottom of your mind, lying somewhere, and then it starts to come out when you're provoked. And I would call this prompt engineering, right? As you prompt it, and then it comes out. So thank you very much.
Thank you.